Hi, I'm Veronica Morgan, co-founder of Home Buyers Academy. I'm joined by my co-founder, who is Megan Wells.
Welcome
We're,
back.
we're here in Kevin's place, two women to replace one man. There's something wrong with that equation, don't you think?
Adding to the bench.
Okay, and in this segment,
He's got a lot more experience than us, Veronica. I mean, this is a man who did radio. He's done real estate for years. He's been doing these shows for a long time. We've got our training wheels on when it comes to this.
And he's got no hair. So he's pulled it all out with all that experience. Okay, what are we going to talk about? We're talking about negotiation mistakes in this segment. Property buyers and first home buyers in particular are really unmatched when it comes to negotiating with real estate agents. For starters, they're emotional and the agent generally isn't. But what they also fail to recognise is exactly how much information that agent has that they just don't have. You know, in relation to the vendor's motivation and also how many other buyers are actually seriously interested in the property. Where else do you see buyers get it wrong, Megan?
I think not understanding value is a really big one. There's I think some buyers have almost a throw a dart and see if it sort of lands kind of approach. And that's really dangerous because if you miss pitch your first offer, you could either completely offend the owner and they won't enter into a negotiation with you, or you may actually be too high. So I think if you don't understand the value of the property and do some really hard work understanding where it sits in the marketplace, what the range is, what its pros and cons are, it's not good enough to go to an agent and simply say, yeah, but the one down the road was 3-bed, 2-bath and it sold for 680, therefore this is 3-bed, 1-bath, it can only be worth 550. It just doesn't work that way. There's a lot more that goes into understanding where a property's market value sits. And just, you and I hate those auto valuations that cough up, a range of $300,000 and, throw your dart and see if it works. But I think understanding value and doing the hard yards, the work to really work out what a property is worth, that's one of the biggest mistakes people make in negotiations.
Absolutely. And they sort of assume if there's an asking price that they have to come in low, but if they don't understand value, they can't actually work out whether that's a reasonable asking price or not. And if it's actually priced really close to market value, then other buyers will actually come in and compete with you anyway. And so you can muck around trying to come in low because you think that's what you should do, instead of actually saying, well, actually, I better act quickly because this won't last at that price.
Yeah. We had that question there. We had a downhearted first home buyer in Q&A last week saying that she missed out on a property and she paid the full asking price. So even then, it's a really good point that you make. Sometimes we say asking price is irrelevant. It is really about understanding what it's worth in the current market and then structuring a negotiation around that. You have a one that you often observe, particularly in that auction environment, and that's not setting a maximum price before you start.
It's exactly right. I mean, I see this in auctions all the time, but I also know that it happens in a private treaty negotiation where buyers haven't really entered the negotiation or entered the auction thinking, well, if I have to, I'm prepared to go to X. They go in there thinking and said, look, I'd like to get it for Y. And they go in with their I'd like to get it price as opposed to, well, push come to shove what I'll go to. And so what that means is that they're then on the fly. If the agent comes back with a counter offer, or if they're in auction and somebody bids more than what they were hoping to buy it for, they're caught out and they're under pressure. They have to then make snap decisions under very trying conditions about how far they're prepared to go. And what often happens, they'll either pay too much or they'll stop bidding when they actually should have been prepared to pay a bit more.
Yeah, no, good point. And that's, I've also seen people who haven't set that maximum just keep going. Yes. And you can see, particularly where there's a couple, you can see one of them sort of look sideways at the other one, and it's a really, it's a really good exercise in reading body language, and it's that, I'm in total shock, but no, we can't afford that.
This is why I encourage buyers to go to auctions and observe as many as possible before they actually bid themselves. And that's something that's a big mistake, going to your first ever auction being the one that you want to buy. That's a really dangerous thing because it's in the middle of that you suddenly realize, oh, I'm out of depth. Oh my God, I didn't anticipate any of this stuff could go on. And now I've got to actually make all these calls. But another one that I think that on the private treaty side, more so than the auction side, we see buyers playing games with agents. And that's a bit of a folly, isn't it?
Well, yes. And it could be either inexperience or misplaced experience. And what I mean by that is, we know that property negotiations are more emotionally based than business negotiations. You know, I've been in a corporate environment, and conducting a business negotiation is vastly different to conducting a property negotiation, because it's about people's homes and their feelings and their emotions. So if you come at it from the wrong angle and try and strong arm in a negotiation, or play games with giving little bits of information but not enough, or perhaps saying one thing but meaning another thing, it often ends up just in pure confusion, and no one comes out of it thinking, well, we're getting a deal together here. No, you sort of walk away going, what just happened?
But there's that saying, never kid a kidder. So agents are actually better at this game than individual buyers. And so when the buyers come in and they think that they're going to sort of muscle up and they can take the agent on, they go, oh, you know, this agent does it every day. That's their job.
This is their job. This is what they're trained in. They are trained in property negotiations, and thinking you can get the upper hand and play games with an agent is not going to bid well for you.
No, definitely not. And the other thing too, through that process,
lining you up.
We're running out of time, but through that process of playing games, you can end up offending the agent. You can end up offending the owner as well. And you know, if there are more than one buyer, or is more than one buyer interested in that property, then of course that agent and that owner has a choice of who they sell it to, and they're going to choose not to sell it to you if you've annoyed them. Now, we talked a little earlier there, Megan, about understanding the property's value, because that is so
important,
fundamental, to actual successful negotiation. And that's why we created, we created a free mini course in Home Buyer Academy to teach buyers actually how to work out the right price to pay. You can access it now free on homebuyeracademy.com.au/free course. So hopefully you get lots of value out of that. We encourage you to actually get in there and understand the value. It's the single most effective thing that you can do when looking at property.
Spot on, and quite enjoyable to work through the process as well.
Only for us.
When you get it, when it really becomes apparent, and you know what it's worth, and you've got confidence around the data, the negotiation part of the process becomes a lot more straightforward and easier.
It's very, very true. And this has been a lot of fun co-hosting Kevin's show.
This, Veronica. Yes, I think we should come back next week. What do you think? Do you think
we
want
might.
Us back?
We'll see if we're allowed back.
Good talking to you.